Hi, welcome to Homegrown Florida. I am Katrina, and today we are going to be harvesting some kohlrabi. Kohlrabi. And I'm going to show you a few of my favorite recipes to use on this very weird alien-like vegetable. Kohlrabi is actually part of the brassica family, although some people do call it a German turnip. Although it isn't really a turnip, it looks like one because of the way it grows, but it doesn't really taste like one. In a lot of ways, kohlrabi tastes like broccoli. So let's jump in here, and we are going to harvest a few of our kohlrabis, and then I'm going to show you how you can use these in your kitchen. That's a kohlrabi right there, and as you can see, it does have this weird like bulbing situation where the bulbs form on the top rather than your traditional root vegetables. And I'm just going to come underneath it and find the stem right there and clip off that stem. We're just going to lift this whole guy out of here. There is our very weird alien looking vegetable. So I clipped off all the leaves, or the stems of the leaves, and you can eat these as like a collard green or spinach substitute. You can eat them raw. They're a little tough for me, but they can be eaten raw. I probably slice them very, very thin, maybe put them in a coleslaw or something like that. A better way is to cut them up, saute them, roast them, those kinds of things, just like you would a tougher type green like kale or collard greens, something like that. Add it to stir fries and pastas. Great way to add additional nutrition to your meal with very little effort and just some extras. If you have chickens, they're going to love stuff like this. Or you can just throw it in your compost if you'd rather not eat it. So we're left with just the kohlrabi, and the whole thing is edible. However, it has a pretty thick skin, and the skin is very fibrous. And so while it is edible, I wouldn't necessarily encourage eating the skin. So we're going to grab a couple more, and then we're going to head inside, process these guys, and I'm going to show you a few of my favorite meals. So now that we have our kohlrabi, I'm going to show you how to process these guys. You could use a peeler, but the skin can be rather tough. So I like to use kind of a thin knife, or maybe even a paring knife. And I want to show you what I'm talking about by the skin. The kohlrabi has a couple layers. So you have this center white part, which is really edible, and this outer kind of yellowish green part that is very fibrous and not pleasing to eat. So we're going to peel this off. If you used a peeler, it would take quite a bit of peeling to get that off. So I'm just going to use this paring knife. And that's all you do to peel them. As you can see, now that green part is gone. Let's do the other half of it. So now that we have that peeled, for the first recipe, I'm going to do an apple carrot kohlrabi slaw. And so in order to do that, I've pulled out my mandolin. And this is a little bit of a special mandolin. I had an incident many years ago where I cut myself on a mandolin. It was pretty bad. I cut one of my fingers pretty good. And my family, remembering that, bought me this little mandolin that's very safe. And so I always use this now. So if you're not used to seeing this kind of mandolin, this is more of a safety type mandolin. So let's get this guy put together. And so you see, I'm not actually touching any, which is good for me. So let's get this guy all shredded up, and then we're going to do our carrots and our apples. So the final thing we need for this slaw is a dressing. Look at that. That is such a crisp slaw. I made it a little bit thick because that's the way I like my slaws, but you can definitely make this a lot thinner and make it more like a cabbage type slaw. So we're going to grab, I don't know, about maybe 2 teaspoons or 2 tablespoons of mayo, equal amounts of vinegar. I like to add a splash of lemon juice to kind of bring out that fresh taste. We're going to do some garlic powder, some onion powder, and then of course, can't have a dressing without some salt and some pepper. Now, if you like your slaw to be more of a sweet slaw, you could just definitely add a little bit of sugar right there, maybe a little bit less on the garlic and onion powder. Now we're going to do a little quick taste test, make sure that this tastes good. Perfect. Now all we're going to do is probably add about half of this, toss it around, and see how we're doing. You can always add more dressing later, but once you put too much in there, it just becomes like a soupy mess. So always start with less, work your way up to more. All right, that actually seems pretty perfect. Can't seem to find any of my tops right now, so we're just going to put a layer of plastic wrap over it, and we're going to let it chill in the refrigerator. The longer it waits in the refrigerator, the better that those flavors are going to melt together, and they're going to taste really amazing. Next recipe we're going to work on is a really, really easy one. This was pretty easy too, but it's roasted kohlrabi. We're going to do that in our little oven over here. I love using that thing. It doesn't heat up the whole kitchen, and it's super fast at cooking. So for our roasted kohlrabi, I'm going to get the little oven preheated to 425, and I'm going to get some aluminum foil over our cookie sheet. Let's get our next kohlrabi. I don't know about you, but until I started gardening, I never actually knew about kohlrabi. I didn't know it existed. They didn't sell it in my grocery store. They still don't. So for me, it was a brand new vegetable I'd never heard of, and I've seen nothing like it, I guess, other than a turnip. And since I love brassicas and I'm a big broccoli fan, I was fairly certain I would like it, but, it's always a gamble growing something that you've never eaten before or you can't get your hands on to try it. But, grow 1 or 2 plants, see if you like it, and then you can enter it into your rotation in the future. I grew these a couple years ago, have loved them ever since. So I grow them every year during our fall-winter timeline. They actually I find them to be more heat tolerant than like typical brassicas like broccoli and cauliflower. Because of that, I usually start these pretty early, like in August, and they will go all the way until late spring, like May-ish. For us down here in Florida, that is tremendous. Anything that we can get to grow over a longer period of time in our hotter temperatures, especially in the brassica family, is awesome. So I'm just cutting these into kind of like little fry shapes. I'm going to toss these guys into this bowl. We're going to add a little bit of oil. That will help them really crisp up in the oven. Toss it in that oil. Now we're going to add our spices. We're going to do a good amount of salt, lots of black pepper. I have to put garlic in everything. It's required. I adore garlic. I'm going to add in some paprika. Not only for the color, but it's got a good flavor, especially the smoked paprika. I'm going to toss those around. Roasted veggies are one of my favorite ways to eat veggies. It really brings out a good flavor in pretty much any veggie. If you think you don't like a vegetable, like I didn't think I liked cauliflower, if you haven't tried them roasted, don't give up until you've tried them roasted. I'm telling you, some kind of magic happens in the oven and they taste amazing. And I don't know what happens. I guess it caramelizes, it brings out some of the sugar content in the vegetable. And all I'm doing now is I'm kind of separating them so that way they have plenty of breathing room. And our oven is already ready. That's what I love about this little oven. So we're going to put them in for about 15-20 minutes. While those kohlrabi are roasting in the oven, we're going to get started on our last recipe, which is a kohlrabi vegetable soup. You can, of course, add meat to this. Chicken or turkey would be outstanding, but I absolutely love vegetarian meals. I'm not a vegetarian. I just like to think of myself as very vegetable forward. I love vegetables, probably because I grow them. But this one can be easily adapted. Like I said, you can add chicken, turkey, shredded rotisserie chicken would be great. But what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to boil my beans first in a broth. I'm grabbing my whippoorwill cowpeas that I grew this summer. I haven't actually tried these yet in any recipe, so I thought this would be a good one to try. I like pretty much all beans. They are a black-eyed pea variety, although they don't really look like a black-eyed pea. They look kind of like a very tiny pinto bean. I did not soak them overnight. I'm notorious for not doing this. And I don't have any canned yet because I haven't figured out how I like them yet. So we're just going to soak them. We're going to do the quick method. We're going to soak them for a little while, and then we're going to simmer them for probably about 30 minutes. I made some vegetable broth the other day, so I'm going to use that. While our beans are cooking, I'm going to go ahead and get this kohlrabi all chopped up. Now this kohlrabi is going to be very similar to a potato in the soup. It's kind of a mix between a potato and a broccoli. It'd be pretty exceptional to add like cheese to this and make it kind of a play on a broccoli cheddar soup, which would also kind of go in with a potato soup, like a loaded potato soup. But I'm keeping it simple today, and we're just going to do vegetables. All right, now we're going to dice this into, or 1-inch dice. Our beans and our vegetable broth have come to a pretty aggressive boil, so we're going to turn that down just a little bit so that we can let that simmer for the rest of the time. Man, that broth really smells good. It really smells good. Okay, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to grab a can of soup base. This is kind of my cheat ingredient. I have some canned soup. This is a soup base that I canned earlier in the year, and it's made from garlic, onions, green beans, tomatoes, carrots, lots of veggies in here. So besides the kohlrabi and the soup base, I'm also going to add a pasta. Vegetable soups can be a little on the light side, which is great, but if you really want to like bulk it up, adding things like beans and pasta or rice, or even, really hearty vegetables like potatoes, root vegetables, or our kohlrabi are really going to amp it up and make it more of a full meal rather than, just a side or a bowl of soup. I like to use small pastas. My absolute favorite in soup is this D'Italiani. Let me know in the comments how you pronounce this. But I love this one in soups because it is small, it's bite-sized. You can pick it up on a spoon with lots of other vegetables, and it's not like overpowering. It's not like a macaroni where it's going to be like nothing but macaroni on the spoon if you pick it up. So I just checked our beans and they are almost all the way cooked. You'd be pretty shocked at how quickly these guys cook. They're more recently dried, so they aren't as hard as like the beans from the grocery store, and so they don't take as much time to cook. So we're about, I don't know, 3/4 of the way there with our beans. So let's go ahead and add our veggie base. Oh, that was a good seal. They'll continue to cook while we combine all the rest of our ingredients. So we've got our veggie base. We're going to add in our kohlrabi. And the beans give it, as you can see, almost like a little bit of a meaty look, or even maybe a barley look, because those are such tiny little beans. So we're going to bring this temperature back up so we can get all that incorporated and get it boiling again. And we're going to let that kohlrabi cook down and get really soft and nice inside of the broth. And then once we feel like the kohlrabi is just about there, we'll add in our pasta, about 1/2 cup of pasta. And then at the very end, I'm going to add in some of my frozen spinach or frozen greens that I have that I pulled from the garden. I probably could get fresh stuff, but I've been trying to use the frozen stuff that has been sitting in my freezer for a year now. So I want to get that worked into our meal. These greens are actually dinosaur kale. So Laciano kale. I'm just going to put a little bit in this bowl for us to add to our soup. You don't have to defrost it. It defrosts really quickly in the soup. So I just tried beans. They are almost completely soft, and the kohlrabi is a great texture. Not mushy, not crunchy, kind of that nice in between, like a potato. All right, we're going to put our pasta in now. And we're going to let that boil for about 5 minutes, and then we're going to add our kale. The pasta is all good. It has a little bit of bite left in it, so it's definitely al dente. We're going to add our kale in, or spinach, whatever you have that's green. And that will cook almost instantaneous. So the first thing I want to do is check if it is kind of soft in the center, which it is. So our roasted kohlrabi is ready, so I'm going to take it out of the oven. Check that out. It smells amazing. It reminds me so much of, French fries, honestly. Like almost like a sweet potato fry, because a sweet potato fry tends not to be quite as crispy as a regular potato, but very good. Texture of a sweet potato fry, taste of potato, like a white potato fry. Okay, we got our 3 kohlrabi recipes right here. We have our slaw, we have our roasted kohlrabi, and we have our soup. And I got to tell you, I'm really, really excited to try this soup. It smells pretty amazing. But let's start with our other guys here. We're going to check on the roasted. Definitely has a sweet potato texture to it. Very good. It's hard to explain. The seasoning is outstanding. It's not very crispy. Man, the only thing I can say that it reminds me of is turnips without that funkiness that a turnip has. I don't know how to explain that. Turnips have like a fermenty type flavor. At least I think they do. And it kind of reminds me of the texture of turnip fries. The seasoning is really good. Okay, let's try the slaw. That is outstanding. Wow. The apple and the carrot give it that sweetness. The kohlrabi almost doesn't come through flavor-wise. It definitely adds like a lot of crunch. The kohlrabi adds a lot of crunch. But flavor-wise, I don't really taste the kohlrabi. maybe a tiny bit. What really is coming through is the apple and the carrots, the sweetness of the apple, the carrots, the creaminess of the mayo with the lemon, the brightness of the lemon. It's really, really good. Man, I'm very pleased with these. Came out very good. Okay, another one I'm really excited about. Let's try our soup. Mm. Mm. That is comforting. The broth is outstanding. The beans are really good. I'm very happy with these beans. I'm gonna have to grow a lot more of these because I can. They're tiny. They're tiny little beans, but man, they are good. Everything has absorbed that broth flavor, which is really good. The Kohlrabi has a little bit of crunch to it. It's kind of like having like a mix between a potato and a celery. Yeah, I think that's the best I can. Mm, a very good vegetable soup. Man, that's good. The kale is outstanding. I'm not sure I have a favorite. Okay, if I have to pick my favorite, this is really good. I'm shocked. I've made the slaws before, but I've never made them with apple. But the soup is on point. Soup is really, really comforting. It's exactly what you would want for a nice winter day, a nice cold day. It is very hearty. This could be like a whole meal. Maybe add some crackers, piece of sourdough bread. That would be amazing. So there you have it. Here are 3 different dishes that you can use in your kitchen using the kohlrabi that you are growing out in your garden. Super easy vegetable to grow. Lots of different ways to eat it. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Head down into the comments, leave me a note, let me know what you think. What is your favorite recipe that you use when you are cooking with kohlrabi?